Hi friends, most people only think about quitting added sugar when they want to lose weight. But I had to quit added sugar because I had gestational diabetes and my goal was to have a healthy baby. And whether you're pregnant or not, quitting added sugar has the same physiological response. And it's not as difficult as I had thought it would be. And I noticed dramatic effects within 24 hours. And no, I didn't have a continuous glucose monitor at that time. This is because I had gestational diabetes over 2 decades ago. I was my own continuous glucose monitor. I basically manually poked myself probably 18 to 20 times a day to make sure that my sugar was perfect within range at 30 minutes, 1 hour, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and 3 hours. Yes, I poked myself at least 3 to 5 times after every meal. And I noticed that once I quit added sugar, my blood sugar numbers would peak at lower numbers within days. I also noticed dramatic changes in my mood, my thoughts, my skin, and my sleep. But it wasn't as easy as just quitting obviously sweet foods. So in this video, I'll share with you what happens inside your body, where sugar hides in the foods, and what you can expect to see physically and feel physically, as well as on your blood work when you remove added sugar for 30 days. Now, I'm Dr. Lou, and I'm a double board certified internal medicine and infectious disease physician. I've been practicing in Beverly Hills, California. I've been in practice for almost 30 years, and my goal is to support you to be the healthiest that you can be. Now, on the surface, I know 30 days seems like a very long time. And that's why if you want to quit added sugar, don't think of it in the terms of 30 days. Take it one day at a time. Sugar is probably the most difficult taste to give up because it's all over our foods, whether they are obviously sweet or not. But the good news is that you don't have to completely give up the taste of sweet to be healthy. You just have to give up added sugar. And we'll talk about the best substitute for sugar later on after we go over the surprising foods that hide sugar. You've probably also never tracked exactly how much sugar you're eating. The fact is, most Americans eat twice as much sugar as people in England. Now, many people think that number is 17 teaspoons, but I've seen the sugar industry figures that Americans eat 31 teaspoons of sugar a day. Can you imagine literally swallowing 31 teaspoons of sugar by itself? No one eats like that. Sugar is always eaten with other foods that give it texture and flavor. And what you probably don't realize is that you get most of your sugar load during breakfast. Now think about it. Do you buy or drink coffee flavored with creamer or syrup? That right there can be 10 to 20 grams of added sugar. But usually you're not drinking coffee alone, you're eating it with a pastry. That has 25 grams of added sugar. So right there, you're almost at 50 grams. Maybe you're a sweetened cereal person. That's roughly 12 to 18 grams of added sugar. So a typical American breakfast can have at least 25 to 40 grams of added sugar. That already exceeds the recommended amount of sugar that we should be eating in a day. In fact, the new dietary guidelines of America, they recommend that people eat no more than 10 grams of sugar per meal. And I used to eat so much more. Pastries for breakfast were delicious, but somehow I would get hungry before lunch, so I would then eat a granola bar. Healthy, right? That has about 12 grams of added sugar. And when I was pregnant, I thought I could eat whatever I wanted because I was eating for 2. Now, the problem is all that sugar first goes through my body, my organs, my liver, before it would get to my child. And as a result, it was changing my body, making it even harder for me to metabolize subsequent meals of starch and sugar. The more added sugar I ate, the more insulin resistant I became. Now, I didn't need to measure my glucose really to tell me that. My stomach grew bigger and I thought that was a baby, but babies don't grow that fast in the first trimester. So nope, I had a baby ball of visceral fat and that made me fail my glucose tolerance test in the second trimester. Now the problem is added sugar has no fiber matrix. So when you eat foods with added sugar, it stimulates release of a chemical in your brain instantaneously. That's called dopamine. That signal reward, motivation, and learning. You're training your brain to remember behaviors that make you feel good. Eating addictive substances like sugar feels good and causes large dopamine spikes, which reinforces the desire to eat that again. The thing is, you release dopamine just thinking about your food. And when it touches your tongue, dopamine is again released before you even swallow that food. And then after digestion, you get another release of dopamine in your intestines. So with each bite, you potentially release dopamine 3 times. Now, the typical American eats, let's say, 6 meals and snacks a day. Each meal is roughly 20 to 40 bites, so potentially you're exceeding 120 bites a day. And if every single bite you take has added sugar, then you're spiking dopamine almost 500 times a day. So over time, your brain adapts by reducing dopamine sensitivity. It's like your mom nagging you to clean your room. Remember those days? If she does it 500 times, I'm sure you've tuned her out after number 2, and you're still not cleaning your room. So the same amount of sugar eaten produces less satisfaction, and then you just seek more sugar to give you that dopamine spike. If you don't clean your room, your mom's going to just be raising her voice, right? So this craving drives compulsive eating. In essence, it's triggering your emotions, just like when your mom nagged you to clean your room. And no matter your age, when you hear your mom's voice, it's just simply that tone that will trigger a certain emotion. And what most people don't realize is that your emotions are triggered every time you eat added sugar, whether you know there's sugar in that food or not. So sugar is hidden in so many everyday foods that don't taste sweet. And did you know that if you ate pasta sauce, that potentially has 6 to 8 grams of added sugar? If you're looking for yogurt, that can have 25 grams of added sugar. If you drink soda, that is 40 grams of added sugar. If you eat ketchup or barbecue sauce, that potentially has 10 grams of added sugar per serving. And we eat sauces on everything, right? From meats to veggies to even dough and pasta. And the problem with added sugar is that you begin so innocently. It's just one little cookie. But then that one little cookie takes over your emotions, and eventually you're emotionally eating without even realize that you finished the whole plate. Now, when you don't have it, you start getting anxious, irritable, tired, and all you do is want a snack, right? Almost always hungry or wanting to eat food just to eat it. Afterwards, you're pretty hyped up. You're cheerful, you're bouncy. And sometimes people are literally bouncing off the walls. So when my kids were young, I was a director of a children's ministry called Loma. And I would go around the different rooms and make sure everything was okay. In one of the rooms, I kid you not, I opened the door and the kids were literally running back and forth, bouncing off the walls, having a grand old time, except that the parent supervisor, she stood there in shock. So unfortunately, added sugar doesn't just affect how you regulate your mood, but it also changes the structure of your body. And the problem is added sugar has a compound called fructose, which is technically simple sugar, similar to glucose, except your body can't metabolize it. Fructose is found in sucrose or table sugar. It's found in high fructose corn syrup, honey, agave. And to be clear, small amounts of fructose are perfectly safe for the body. So fructose found in whole natural fruits are safe to eat because it's packaged in a fiber matrix with water and antioxidants. The packaging of fructose determines how quickly your liver sees it. If the fiber is really tough, your body can't digest and access fructose easily. You just then poop it out. But if you destroy that fiber, let's say you bake an apple, then your body will access that fructose more easily because the fiber is now broken up. And once it gets inside your body, it goes in your bloodstream, and the vast majority of it ends up in your liver, but not as fructose, as fat. That means every large dose of fructose goes straight to your liver. And what happens is when you get more liver fat, you get more insulin resistance. So the more added sugar you eat, the more liver fat you will collect, like foie gras, the more insulin resistant you become. And the second problem is that foods with added sugar generally also have added fats, like palmitic acid. Palmitic acid is actually the most common saturated fat found in the human body. And this particular fat is also abundantly found in many foods that you eat. And when you eat excess palmitic acid, that actually enters into your muscle cells and it gets converted into lipid, fat in your muscles. And the intermediate compounds of ceramides and diacylglycerols, these compounds, they actually get trapped in your muscle to interfere with insulin signaling. This process is called intramyocellular lipid accumulation, and it rapidly speeds up insulin resistance. So when you have insulin resistance, that just sets the stage for more inflammation, higher blood sugars, atherosclerosis in your blood vessels. It changes the structures of your organs. And just a quick note before we continue, I see messages all the time that people have watched several of my videos and they didn't realize that they weren't subscribed. So if you find value in my videos, can you double check that you are subscribed? It's free and it really does help to get my message to other people. And if you are subscribed, thank you very much for joining me to change the world. Let's go on to the first 3 days. Let's talk about withdrawal and renewal. And most people think it takes an entire month to see metabolic changes when you quit added sugar. That's actually false. Your body changes immediately. But it may take about 24 to 72 hours before you will notice a physical change, although you will feel different even the same day. Now, if you're just slowly quitting, let's say you just stop adding sugar in your morning coffee, but for the rest of your diet, it's fully loaded with added sugar, then you're not going to feel or see any difference. I mean, literally, you're making like less than 1% change. Your body does change over time, all the time when you eat or you don't eat these foods. But 1%, right? Really unlikely to see or feel a noticeable difference. That's not realistic. You are the driver of what you eat. You have the choice to support your body, change for the better. You have the choice to speed it up or do it slowly. And if you just quit all of it, it will be different. But I know quitting added sugar is not so easy simply because there's so much hidden added sugar in everyday, supposedly healthy foods. But if you're determined, you can go all in. Do your homework, make a legit plan, and let me prepare you for the withdrawal that you're going to feel unless you have the right plan, eating the right foods to replace those sugary foods. Hi, friends. I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now. So the first 3 days really are the hardest for any addiction. Withdrawals hit you hard if you don't have a plan because your body is used to that chemical, in our case, sugar. It expects you to eat it and expects to feel a certain way after you eat it. Simply speaking, when you don't get your dopamine spikes, your body will say, hey, go get us some dopamine, go get us some sugar. And it will make your brain think about sugar all the time. But this is a time to learn how to readjust and reset to a new normal when you remove the addiction stimulus. There are 2 ways to quit sugar. One is to quit cold turkey. The second is to ease into quitting. I prefer the second, but if you want to do the first, here's what you can expect is going to happen. When you quit sugar in the first 24 to 72 hours, your dopamine will drop and you will feel symptoms of irritability, low mood, and strong cravings and urges. You may not be a pleasant person to be around, snappy, and it may take you more effort to be positive. You're going to be thinking about sugary foods a lot. That's what happens whenever people take away something that you want, whether it's your iPad, your iPhone, candy, desserts, remote control, or your TV. People focus on what they can have. That's simply human nature. It's normal. Be prepared by planning strategic distractions. Keep yourself busy so that you're not focusing on these withdrawal symptoms and sugar. What I chose to do was work. When I had gestational diabetes, I was a fellow in training. So I had a lot of work. I had a lot of people. I chatted all the time. I interviewed people. And I thought about my work to solve other people's problems. Have you ever felt so busy at work that you forgot to eat? Yeah, it's not so difficult, right? That's a distraction. I focus outward on other people. So, that's the definition of my job, right? As a physician. So if you don't have a job that's interactive with people, then this is a great time to go find one. Volunteer at church, meet with family and friends. It helps to do something outdoors so that you're not surrounding yourself with food. That means going to parties or meeting in restaurants probably will not support you in quitting sugar. But hiking in nature away from stores is a much better option. However, the thing that most people don't realize is that you don't have to totally give up all sugar. No, it's not turning to sugar substitutes. That can actually sabotage your gut microbiome and make your blood sugars worse, make it more difficult when you're eating starchy carbohydrates like bread and rice. Now, I'm actually talking about focusing on low glycemic foods made by nature, trapped in fiber and hydrated with water. So honey and maple syrup are all natural, but they're not low glycemic. They have no fiber. They will spike your sugar, just like eating added sugar. The key is to eat sugar trapped in fiber made by nature, right? So ever suck on a piece of candy made out of fiber? They actually make stuff like that. That's not what you should be eating. Eat it all natural and unadulterated, not manipulated by people, like fruit. Fruit is refreshing, it's hydrated, it's low in sugar, and that sugar is trapped in the original fiber matrix that's designed to slow down absorption so that you don't get those high dopamine spikes. So every time I crave for sugar, and I still do that now, I would just go grab some fruit, like strawberries, which are very low calories, have a low glycemic index, refreshing and fragrant that no piece of candy will ever taste like. And it's super sweet to my palate. You can chew an apple or blueberries. There are lots of options. Fruit will not spike your dopamine like added sugary products like a cookie. There is so little sugar in a fruit that you don't need to worry about getting addicted to that fruit. And that's why less than 15% of people in America eat the recommended serving of fruit. If it was that addictive, we wouldn't have that problem. In fact, getting addicted to fruit will be a good thing for you so that you can meet your minimum requirement of a healthy diet. There's also a built-in anti-addiction mechanism in whole fruit. When you eat too much, your stomach won't feel good. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. You're going to have to use the bathroom. You'll have epic poops. But before that happens, your mouth won't feel so good. Most of that fruit has at least vitamin C, if not other acids that can irritate your mouth when you eat too much. Some fruits also have digestive enzymes that start digesting your own tissue in your mouth just a little bit so that it gets irritated. In addition, fresh fruits are rich in water and fiber, as I mentioned, and will make you full before you've even eaten enough calories for the day. Foods with added sugar, such as cookies and cakes, do not have any of those built-in mechanisms to control your appetite. In fact, the food industry purposely engineers food so that you eat more. Hence, this is a perfect way to taste that sugar that you want, meet your dietary fiber, get hydrated, and temper that dopamine withdrawal. You will feel full and satisfied and slowly realize that you feel better without that cookie. And over time, your mood will be more steady. Your waist will be smaller. Your visceral fat, that's going to shrink. Your body will be more sensitive to insulin. And you'll, again, have epic poops, remember, if you eat enough fruit. You're not going to have to suffer through irritability from constipation or low mood or fatigue from quitting sugar. And that's exactly what I did to myself to get off of added sugar. When you quit added sugar and you get fiber-rich whole foods to replace that, you're going to feel a shift in your gut because you're literally changing your gut microbiome within those first 3 days. Literally, the bacteria that grew and fed on added sugar will start dying. And you're going to replace it with the ones that will thrive on the fiber of fruits. They were probably also contributing to your signals in the brain to crave more sugar. And that's why it's not just willpower, it's physiology and biology. It creates shapes your desires. And it's up to you to understand how your body works, to plan for these very predictable outcomes if you want to successfully quit sugar. And when you teach yourself these tools, you can actually apply these tools to other addictions, like watching social media or smoking. The goal is to feed your good gut microbes and starve the bad ones that are rapidly contributing to your metabolic, sickness, right, from added sugar. And this will support steady blood sugars, not roller coaster up and down cycles. That also roller coasters your mood. Your insulin sensitivity will actually start improving within the first 3 days. And it just gets better and better so that you lay off added sugar. So if you're taking medication, make sure you check with your physician before you change your diet. And this means you're not caramelizing your body at a rapid rate. Yes, you're literally heating up sugar in your body because your body is warm. And then that sugar sticks to your body parts, turning it brown, including your skin, your bones, your cartilage, making your ligaments hard and brittle. That's aging, folks. So once you quit added sugar, the rate at which you age immediately slows down, and you'll need less insulin to do the same job. Your liver will start getting less fatty. Your muscles will also lose some of that fat too. And you'll notice that you'll just simply eat less food, and you'll be eating less food less often because you're not hungry all the time. That's because when you eat foods high in fiber and not in added sugar, that curbs your appetite. It helps you to feel full, not hungry, eating more food when you eat processed, highly refined foods. Now, day 4 to 7, you'll notice that it gets easier to avoid foods with added sugar, but the temptation won't totally go away. That's because your dopamine receptors are learning to become more responsive to your dopamine, and your brain is getting rewired. You'll also notice you're going to be losing a bit of weight. A lot of that weight is probably going to be water. Once you give up added sugar, you'll also be giving up the added starches that come with the added sugar. And when you do this, your insulin starts going down. When your insulin levels go down, you gain less weight, but you also lose more salt. And when the salt goes down, so does the water. Hence, a lot of people who go on a low carbohydrate diet, which essentially is what you're doing, quitting added sugar and refined starches, you'll notice that within the first week, you'll be losing weight. And that's another reason why it's important to eat fruit. When you go on too low of a carb diet, you'll start feeling the effects of having too many ketones. They call that the keto flu, which mimics flu-like symptoms that give you fatigue, irritability, sometimes even nausea. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water to keep well hydrated and tank up on colorful fruits as well as vegetables to get your electrolytes. Because when you pee out water, you're not just losing sodium, you're also losing potassium and magnesium. I've never had the keto flu because I was still eating good carbohydrates, which are important for any healthy diet. And the weight loss will begin to slow down around week 2. And by that time, you've already peed out a lot of sodium. You will also notice you'll be feeling better. Your brain will function better. Your mood will be more steady. You'll be less irritable, and you'll spend less time thinking about those sugary foods. It'll just be easier to resist those foods because you're already having practiced what you should do to distract you from eating that. And over the next 2 to 4 weeks, your dopamine, those receptors start becoming even more responsive again, so that your cravings and your compulsive urges are less. Your brain is getting used to and enjoying your new life, the new rewiring without added sugar. But you will probably still feel temptations when you walk next to a platter of cookies or a birthday cake. Honestly, it may take you several months to change your way of being. One who just doesn't eat added sugary products, no matter what environment you're in. And if you keep on walking, hiking, swimming, biking, these are all activities that also stimulate dopamine and encourages you to eat differently to be able to do those activities. So don't be surprised to find yourself addicted to exercising, especially with a buddy. And this happened to me in the past year. I started reforming Pilates. I really only did 1 day a week. And then I moved to 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week, and then 4 days a week. And now I do 5 days a week. I feel so good after every class. I don't feel so good when I don't go. So by the end of the month, you should notice that your waist is smaller. Clothes are just looser, fitting better. Your face is less round. And if that isn't happening, then you either didn't cut out much added sugar, or there's still added sugar in your diet that's hidden in foods that don't taste sweet, like breads and sauces. Most of the time, it's savory foods, such as meats and pasta, or maybe you're eating sugar substitutes or artificial sweeteners, thinking that that was your way out. That sugary taste will keep you addicted to ultra-processed food. And switching from one added chemical, sugar, to a sugar substitute, it doesn't improve your gut microbiome or your response to carbohydrates. So when I quit added sugar, my blood sugars were excellent throughout the rest of my pregnancy. My weight held steady. I was no longer gaining weight like that. I had a healthy baby who was 6 pounds, and I was back on my feet when I got home to my pre-pregnancy energy. My mom literally had to tell me to slow down. And when you quit eating added sugar, you are unknowingly quitting another compound that is responsible for why your body has been packing on more fat. And if you want to learn more about that, watch the next video.